I know some of you are gonna call me bipolar, and some days I'm just like, whoa, boo-hoo, whoa, everybody got nerfed, and on the other hand, it's like, whoa, we got buffed, and it's like, I don't know. But Blizzard, I don't know how you guys make me feel anymore. You guys actually are just like, you're like that girlfriend that I want to hang out with, but you're giving me mixed signals all the time. I can't tell if you want to hang out, I can't tell if you don't want to hang out, I can't tell if you want to Netflix and chill, or just like, am I getting dumped over the phone right now? But Blizzard so far has come out with some new buffs, and they buffed everybody. It feels like they are changing some of the different changes, and they added developer notes. So I am so happy to be seeing them. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Dao. Today we'll be taking a look at the buffs that have happened recently. I believe they happened on the, what day was it actually? On the 1st of November. A great way to start the month. And best part about this is developer notes. Sadly, there's nothing for rogues. I'm still waiting for those patch notes and developer notes when it comes to rogue changes. Just not even a buff or a nerf, just to explain why the thing that they, rogues need to be nerfed by 10%. Maybe talk a little bit about subtlety and what are the thoughts on it. But let's take a look at these notes, starting with Death Knights. Frost Death Knight strength for PvP has been reduced by 10%. On one hand, it's like, oh, why are you buffing him then nerfing him? But on the other, it is a much needed nerf. I don't think this nerf is going to be enough to make Frost unplayable. I don't think it's going to make Frost any less competitive than it is. But it did currently, it was dealing a little bit too much damage. So now it still deals competitive damage, but not enough to the point where some people might consider the class broken. Well, let's hope not. Also, they reverted a change for Unholy Death Knights back from the beta when they made Apocalypse damage reduced for PvP. They said the developer notes, Frost Death Knights have been recently received a number of bug fixes and class tuning adjustments that have recently pushed their damage out of line for PvP. For Unholy's Apocalypse weapon, which is the artifact weapon ability, the damage was reduced during beta due to its burst potential, but due to other changes, we no longer feel the reduction is necessary. So what basically they've done is they made Frost and Unholy viable specs, as Unholy has amazing burst with Apocalypse back all the way, so there's probably some different builds that you can run with in order to get a little bit more bursty Unholy build, so we'll see how that goes. And they toned down Frost a little bit. Hopefully with these changes we'll see both Unholy and Frost in battlegrounds and arenas. They also went to Demon Hunters, and on one hand I did talk a little bit about, well, Demon Hunters look like they have all these cool utilities and might be OP. You do have to look at the ladder and the fact that there's not that many Demon Hunters on the ladder. So Havoc got a nice buff for agility by 5% and stamina by 10% for survivability. Developer note says, as players have become more accustomed to Demon Hunters and how to counter them, we feel their damage and general survivability has ended up a little low. So we're giving them a little tuning to help them compete. In a way, they are kind of right. When you take a look at Demon Hunters, they are a class with, I guess, lacking mechanics to play around with. I don't want to say they're a class that has no mechanics to play with, but they certainly have a lot less mechanics than most others. Basically, Demon Hunters don't have like a defensive capability. Your defensives are your mobility and your ability to deal as much damage as possible during metamorphosis. You have a lot of just convenience when it comes to your mobility, which is also your damage capability. You have conveniences with some of your damage and abilities, be it your powerful bleed that you can still apply on the enemy, or your burst potential in metamorphosis. And it's just like, because of all the improvement that has happened in Legion, I feel like Demon Hunters are basically a straightforward class. But because they're so straightforward with not too many different alterations on how you PvP and how you play, or how you build yourself, yes, I believe developer notes do state as, and they're correct, the Demon Hunters are pretty easy to counter for most classes. So hopefully Demon Hunters won't seem too tanky for a lot of us, but we'll see how it goes. Survival Hunters got more buffs as their stamina has been increased by 15%. As a melee DPS, Survival Hunters have been a bit too squishy for PvP, so we're increasing their stamina, the developer notes say. And I feel like while I like the idea with Survival Hunter as a melee class and everything that it offers, and being like, pet based with like pet combination abilities and Mongoose Bite and the traps that it has, so it's a very unique melee, probably one of the most unique melees I've ever played in the game back on beta, but its survivability is kind of lacking, and I think it's mainly because of its toolkit being hunter based, and hunter based toolkits are range based toolkits. So hopefully the stamina buff makes them a little bit tankier and more applicable for arenas, BGs, and whatnot. Frost Mages got their intellect nerfed by 10% when it comes to PvP, with the developer note saying Frost Mages recently received some data or some damage increases that we feel needed to be counter-tuned in PvP. So they buffed Frost Mages, but then they are reducing their intellect by 10%. So I guess then went back to not getting any kind of buff. It's a little bit weird because they did change a few of their talents, like for example, being able to hit for about 700k every single Frostbolt if you shatter it. So you had to combo a few abilities together which were on cooldown. So we'll see how it works out for Frost Mages. I still see a lot more Fire Mages, but hopefully as the expansion goes on, we'll see a few other specs. Windwalker Monks got their agility reduced by 10%, and the Serenity, which is one of their Spirit Focus artifact traits. Serenity now increases damage by 25% with the Spirit Focus artifact trait, was 30%, so 5% nerf for Spirit Focus artifact trait for the weapon. Developer note saying Windwalkers are able to maintain extremely high uptime against their targets in PvP, and the raw damage capability is just too high for a spec that's so difficult to get away from. It almost reminds me a bit of Subtlety Rogues, and Rogues overall got 10% agility nerf. And I guess that's true, monks are one of those classes that are really sticky, as they do have a few different ways of mobility. Now, not every monk is going to be able to take advantage of it, as some monks out there just overroll or overshoot the flying serpent kicks, but for definitely a well-tuned player who knows how to stick on the target, you are having a lot of DPS uptime. And I definitely can attest to that, as I've experienced it as a rogue, and it's a bit demoralizing when a monk is just able to catch up to you no matter where you go, no matter where you grapple, and just getting one-shotted in that stun lock opener if you don't have a trinket. Also, Shaman's got a buff, which is a significant buff, so if you haven't been playing your Elemental Shaman in a while, I think you should go back and check it out. Lava Burst now deals full damage in PvP. It was reduced by 80% at the end of beta. Now, I remember when they did this nerf back in the beta, and it basically made Elemental Shaman from, oh, this is fun, to, oh, this is bad. So no one was playing it. But as they buffed the damage of Lava Burst, they nerfed the damage of Control Lava, which increases your Lava Burst damage by 100%, was 150. The developer note states, we've reached a lot of feedback on Elemental Shaman. You'll feel good once in PvP they have access to Honor, Talent, Control Lava, but felt too weak without it. We've decided to remove the PvP reduction on the base Lava Burst spell and reduce the benefit from Control Lava to compensate. This results in effectively being the same damage for players who still wish to use Control Lava, but an increase to Lava Burst without it. I'm not sure if a lot of players actually wanted to use Control Lava. It's just, back in beta, I feel like most players had to use Control Lava if you want to deal any form of damage. But with this change, we are going to get a little bit different builds when it comes to Honor Talent. And I'm kind of happy that Control Lava isn't going to be as important, or at least that's would be my least priority as a Shaman. I wouldn't know if that's still in the meta, so as a Shaman you would have to update me. So what am I talking about? So Control Lava is an honor talent that was buffed during the beta, and basically makes it so that your Lava Burst can no longer be instacast and can no longer be a free instacast proc from your Flame Shocks. But it does increase the damage that it deals. What a lot of Shamans found themselves doing is they had to go with Control Lava in order to deal any form of substantial damage when it comes to PvP. And your damage ended up being Chaos Bolt damage. Not the new Chaos Bolt, but the old Chaos Bolt, when it basically tickled people back from the beta and when Legion originally launched. So this change is actually really good for Shamans. It still allows you for that mobility that is much needed and much, at least I welcomed it, much welcome mobility as we saw in Legion at the very beginning of the beta. And to be able to run around, slow your enemies, flame shock the world, throw lava bursts all over the place while maintaining decent damage was a lot of fun. But when they made it all about Control Lava, then you're basically like a turret. You have to stand in place and cast lava bursts, and if there's melee on you, you are never getting any damage out. So hopefully this will help them out a ton. Warriors. I'm not really sure, but okay, well, I'm just looking at these notes, and Hamstring is still on global cooldown. But now damage has been increased considerably and now lasts 12 seconds for PvP. Arm's strength and stamina has increased by 10%, and Fury's strength and stamina increased by 10%. So me and Pilgrim are going to push some rating this week. Developer notes, patch 7.1 put Hamstring back on the global cooldown, and while we still feel that that's the correct choice for that ability, we understand that this change had a major impact on Warrior's damage rotation, as well as Hamstring's overall uptime. To compensate, we increase the Hamstring's duration, so that it needs to be applied less frequently and massively increases its damage to help make it feel worthwhile to use. Additionally, we felt that warriors weren't feeling quite tough enough for PvP, so increase the strength and stamina for arms and fury. Welcome change for fury, especially the stamina increase, as fury still gets blown up if you have enrage available, but it's also a nice way to compensate for arms, tankiness, and lack of damage by giving them that extra strength for 10%. And I would want to see just how hard hamstring hits. I'm not sure if it'll change the warrior's playstyle, because a lot of warriors, at least arms warriors, reported that the playstyle became clunky as soon as hamstring was on a global cooldown. It's not about the damage, and it's not about what you do and how you play. It was just all about putting the hamstring on a global cooldown makes the warrior feel clunky. So the damage increase, I guess you are balancing out how much damage you deal, but still the feeling of clunkiness and the aspect of fun and how fun the spec is to play and how good it feels to press all your buttons in PvP might still be affected. So if you play a warrior, test this out for me, please let me know. Destro Warlock's got a few nerfs. I'm not sure if some of these nerfs are in or reverted, because I remember watching Kobrak's video and one of them was about Chaos Bolt increased damage. But let's take a look at the nerfs that have happened. They're not major, or at least I feel like they're not major, but they do kind of balance them out. Entrenched in Flame, which is an ability, it's a talent, I believe it's either honor talent or class talent, that allows you to root the enemy once you use Conflagate on them. So the root was 4 seconds, but now it's 3 seconds. So they nerfed the root a little bit. Focus Chaos now increases Chaos Bolt damage by additional 100%, was 150. So it seems like they actually did go through and nerf the Chaos Bolt damage you get from Focus Chaos, because I guess they felt it was too strong. And Shadowburn deals 20% less damage in PvP. Okay, let's see what the patch notes have to say. Developer notes say 7.1 introduced some new talents to Destruction Warlocks to increase the control and incentivize the use of cast time spells like Chaos Bolt. These talents were overtuned initially, but we want to keep Chaos Bolt as the best damage value for a Soul Shard. Alright, so they nerfed Shadowburn so that spamming Shadowburn back to back for Soul Shards isn't as effective. So using Chaos Bolt, especially an empowered version, is more effective. I'm not really sure. Is that the correct change? I'm not quite sure if that is the correct change. I feel like most Warlocks had to go Shadowburn because Chaos Bolt damage was lower. But instead of buffing Chaos Bolt damage, I guess they do buff it still with the honor talent, but now you have to spec for it, and now you have to choose whether you want that or you want cremation, which has been redone, where your immolates and our instacast and your conflags always burn off like 5, 6, or 8% of enemies worth of health every single time. So I'm not really sure if that's the... Sometimes Blizzard likes to do these things where, oh, so a main ability that the class has been using for a while is no longer as good. Was the other alternative that is replacing it? Oh, let's nerf it. So in most cases where it's like, oh, why is my main ability, like for example Chaos Bolt, why is that ability pretty weak? Why can't we buff it to the point where it's like, oh, it feels really, really good? Alright, I guess I'll go Shadowburn spec. I'll just spam a bunch of Soul Shards because that effectively does more damage than what my Chaos Bolt was. I wish I could go back to spamming Chaos Bolt, but not really. So now it's like, oh, so you're using Shadowburn? So let's nerf it by 20% in PvP. So then you're kind of forced to use Chaos Bolt. You know, I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I'm not quite sure. I don't know how this is going to affect Destruction Warlocks, but if I was playing Destro, I would be pretty confused. I won't say upset, but pretty confused by these changes. Anyway, guys, this is everything that we have for the changes. I'm going to go to bed now. I got to wake up at 7 in the morning. But after I get up at 7 in the morning, go to my classes, go to a meeting, come back, write a paper, I will go and sit down and work on some other videos. Until then, I'd like to hear from you guys, some of your comments. What do you think about these buffs and our nerfs? So let's cover it real quick. Frost Death Knights got slight tuned down, Unholy Burst came back, Demon Hunter saw some love with some damage and survivability increase, Hunter saw survivability increase, Mage Frost Spec saw an intellect nerf to counteract its damage increase as of recent, Monk got nerfed, I want to say slightly, but it is kind of significant. There's a 10% nerf. Shamans, Elemental Shamans might be back in the game. Warriors got a, I guess some sort of a deal on Hamstring to make it a little bit more viable or worth the use, but they also got buffed in survivability and damage, and Destruction Warlocks got tuned down a bit. So what are your thoughts on all the buffs, guys? Buffs and nerfs? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.